til på cabriolettur med Røine. Nå har jeg fått med meg en gjest, en utrolig spennende gjest. Og denne gjesten, det er, well, maybe I should change to English. My guest today is the Canadian ambassador to Norway, Artur Wilczynski.
Hi.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, that's great.
Wilczynski?
Yeah. Wilczynski's awesome. I was pointing at my chin, Wilczynski.
Wilczynski. Okay. Excellent. So this is my guest today, and thank you very much for having the time to join me for a ride.
Oh, thank you so much for taking me. This is awesome. I can't wait to have the chat.
Yeah. We're now just leaving the embassy and driving a little bit around in Oslo. And we are now just at the embassy and
I think you can see the flag in the back window there.
Yeah. But please, tell me a little bit, who are you, Artur?
Okay, well, so my name is Artur Wilczynski. I'm Canada's ambassador here in Norway, and it's been about 2.5 years since I've been here. You know, I think a lot of people are interested in my family background. I was born in Poland.
Yes, because you don't have a typical Canadian name.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Canadian names have changed over the years, but no, I don't have an English name or French. I've got a Polish name, but I was, my family were Holocaust survivors, and we were in Poland until the late 1960s, when you know, the communist regime back then basically kicked us out. We had no choice but to leave. So I was an immigrant to Poland when I was a very, very young kid. Grew up in Montreal, one of the most diverse, one of the most vibrant cities in Canada, I think in the world. It's one of my favorite cities. And my parents, who were raised by communists, thought it would be a good idea to put me in a private Jewish school.
Okay.
And you know, they did.
So you're Jewish?
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And you know, what was funny was they didn't know that they put a young gay kid in a religious Jewish school. So that was one of the challenges growing up, being a little gay kid in a religious school. It wasn't really easy. And then, sorry,
can I just but when did you find out that you were gay?
I've known I was different for all kinds of reasons since I was a little kid.
Okay.
But I was always afraid to talk about it. It was, you know, when you're going into in a religious school, it doesn't matter what religion you happen to be in. You know that you're different because of something that the religion doesn't approve of. It's something that's scary. Yeah. And you know, I knew when I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I remember in grade 7, one of my classmates asked me if I was gay, and I got a little bit excited because I was like, maybe he is too. So I asked him if he was, and he said no, and then my heart broke, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm staying in the closet for a little bit longer.
Okay.
So it was
sorry, I did.
No. So this is something that's been part of me since I was a young person, and that's why diversity for me was so important. Yeah. You know, I was an immigrant to Canada. I was you know, from the Jewish community. I happened to be English speaking in a majority French speaking province, and I was gay. But I also, you know, I recognized that Canada was great to me, you know, and my family. If it wasn't for Canada, I don't think we wouldn't never have had the life my family and I've had. And so for me, it was really important to try and give back to my country, and that's why I joined public service. And you know, fast forward 25 years, you know, I became an ambassador.
Yeah, but you had some really exciting positions before you became an ambassador.
Yeah, no, like I said, I was really lucky over the years. I mean, I've done everything from human rights and culture to working in our parliament to national security and counterterrorism before coming to Norway as ambassador.
But you said national. Was that the kind of head of Canada's
I was the
equivalent to CIA or something like that?
No. It was nothing that. First, we don't have an equivalent to CIA in Canada. But what I was the Director General for Security and Intelligence in the Foreign Ministry. So I worked closely with the security community in Canada. I worked on issues like counterterrorism and crime and defense issues. But no, that was within the Foreign Ministry. And before that, I worked for our Ministry of Public Safety, which is kind of like Homeland Security, where I was the Director General of International Affairs there, and worked in various places, Afghanistan, Pakistan, on a range of security issues. And also, I was doing this, and it was just interesting as a gay, openly gay man. Right? A lot of people think that some of these areas are closed to you because you might be gay, and they're not. I actually found them to be quite open and welcoming. But
why? But you see that you hear about people struggling in different societies, in different communities, being gay, but it looks like you have managed to be into very traditional organizations and culture and still prosper in that kind of job. Why do you think that is so?
I think luck. Luck.
Okay.
I actually think that people underestimate how much being lucky, how much being surrounded by individuals who support you, how important that is.
Yeah.
And I came out when I was a fairly young man. I was 18 years old when I came out. This was in the early 1980s, and I was very much supported by my friends and family. When I first started to work at Parliament, I was about 20 years old at the time. The member of Parliament that I worked for was incredibly supportive of me. I also met my husband when I was quite young. We just finished 30 years together.
30 years,
and it's incredible how much one gets from being together with somebody that's very, very supportive and there for you all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that mixed with just being lucky, being in the right place at the right time, I didn't know any differently that I should be afraid of it. I was just, particularly the gay part of my existence. I never thought that actually was much of a barrier, particularly not in Canada. It wasn't a big issue. Where it is challenging is when you want to work around the world. There aren't a lot of places around the world where they'd accept a gay couple as an ambassador. That's why I think Randy and I are so lucky, so privileged to be here in Norway, because Norway has opened its arms to us and has been incredibly supportive of us.
And I feel that. Well, I've heard about you long before I met you, and that you. Yeah. But in a very positive way, because you were bringing this diversity in and very open-minded, and also. So I heard about you, and also I've heard, of course, we see the Prime Minister of Canada as well has the same attitude, same open-mindedness, and we Norwegians, we would like to be that as well. I don't think we might not be as much, but we are working on it.
I think Norwegians are incredibly open, particularly on issues around LGBT, and I think that all societies have people and individuals that are welcoming and engaging and positive, but they also have people that are afraid.
Yeah.
They also, you're talking about courage.
Yes.
I think that many people are afraid of difference, and many people are afraid of being different.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for those of us who have the opportunity, who have the safety and the ability to stand out as different, for us to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's important for me personally. And I'm super grateful that I have a Prime Minister, Prime Minister Trudeau, and a government that's been very welcoming of me. But it's not just Prime Minister Trudeau. I mean, he's been fantastic. But I was actually nominated by the previous government. So this is something that it does a left wing, right wing in Canada, conservative, liberal. There's, I think, a broad acceptance of diversity as a fundamental characteristic of my country, and that's why it makes it such a great honor to be here. And this is also, I mean, it's an important year for us. This is Canada's 150th birthday.
Congratulations!
Yeah, and it's also the 75th anniversary of Canada's and Norway's diplomatic relations. And again, the issues that we work on together, like whether or not it's prosperity, whether or not it's security, the fact that we're anchored in societies that are open and democratic and liberal and open to the world, I think are really, really important.
But you said something that I think is important. You said to allow yourself to be original or be original, that you have to stand out so that you can be there and be an example to others to be more original. And I think that's so good. How can you get other people to embrace their originality?
I think the only way that you can get others to do it is by doing it yourself, and that's why for me it's been so important to be out as a gay man, why it was important for me to work on issues around anti-Semitism and on refugee and immigration issues, whether or not here in Norway or anywhere around the world. For me this has been important, because to show that somebody in my position is comfortable enough being different, to defining myself the way I want to be defined, it helps others, I think, feel the same safety, and maybe take the chance to come out, take the chance to talk to friends about what makes them different, take the chance to talk to somebody who may be supportive, and that's for me is important, because if you don't define yourself the way that you want to be defined, somebody else will define you in a way that you don't like.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And so again, for me, it's important for me to define myself.
Sorry, but I think that's a great thought. And I think also the problem is, if you don't define yourself, as you mentioned, you don't know really who you are inside. What kind of signals do you send to the world if you don't know who you are? Then you send mixed signals, and then people, well, you get friends that you don't like because they
don't take you for your genuine self. They take you for who you're pretending to be. And that's why, again, being authentic is really important. It doesn't matter what that authenticity is.
True.
It could be anything you want. Too often we spend our time trying to please other people, trying to fit into somebody else's idea of what is good and what is popular, and we don't take care of ourselves. And I think that it's really important to take care of ourselves, because if you don't take care of you, who's going to do that?
That's true.
You can't expect other people to stand up for you and to defend you if you're not willing to do it yourself.
No, that's true.
So for me, that's why it's this position has been a great opportunity to talk about all of these issues.
Yeah,
and for some things it's been easier than others. Like for example, the LGBT community here is very, very big, and we just had Pride a couple of weeks, and there was like thousands and thousands of people here. But even there, they held a Pride parade at the same time that some very extreme people were wanting to have a counter demonstration in Kristiansand, right, about to protest against the homo lobby, and they were also throwing in the fact that the gay lobby is controlled by Jews. So it's this kind of mixture of discrimination that's out there. Is something that all of us have to work together against. The Norwegian government has been great on issues of LGBT rights. It's been also really, really strong on issues of anti-Semitism and combating discrimination. But it's that one's a little bit more challenging, I think, in a place like Norway, because it's such a small community.
You mentioned that to me, that you actually found it more challenging to be a Jew than to be a gay person.
Well, I just think that being, first of all, let me just say I'm not a religious Jew. I'm not a religious person. I don't, anybody who knows me knows that I don't go to synagogue. I don't go. I don't eat kosher, but I identify myself as a Jewish person. But I find that because there are so few Jews in this country, very few people actually know Jews in Norway. And it's led to some awkward conversations here and there. So, my job again is to try and make it, normal, make it average. That it's not an exceptional or a strange thing to meet a Jewish person. That we're like everybody else. We have views. We're a diverse community, and we care passionately about our families and our friends and our country like anybody else. But it has been challenging. You have faced issues here. One of the thing I mentioned to you in the past. One of the first conversations I had in Norway. Was with an individual. I was invited to a dinner, and they came in. This person came in. Before he said hello, before he said welcome to Norway, the first words out of his mouth were, "I find it strange that I know you're a Jew." And for me, it was I've never heard something like that before. So it was a bit surprising. But again, it's not strange for me that I'm Jewish.
No,
he didn't even mention the fact that I was gay and I was with my husband. So that was all perfectly fine. Yeah. It was the Jewish part that he found strange. And I think that when communities are small, when there is a lack of knowledge, when there is a lack of information, I think that's where people have the opportunity to stand up. To talk about themselves and their lives in a way that makes them and their communities less mysterious, just average and normal and boring. Sometimes it's okay to be boring because then you normalize things that might be strange to other people.
No, but I talk a lot about courage, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. Touched on. What do you think? How do you define courage, or what do you think is courageous?
I think there are a lot of courageous people out there who are willing to take risks, to be themselves, and to fight for what they believe in. I think that there are people with huge courage that I think very highly of, that I find are inspirations. People like Mandela, but also people like Malala. There's this young woman who faced death to defend girls' rights and the right to education, and she did this by being authentic and genuine in herself. Like just that act of being herself, to being honest. That for me was courageous. Honesty isn't easy.
No, it's not.
Honesty at a sort of a big political level is hard. Honesty at an individual, at a personal level, is hard because sometimes the truth is really is uncomfortable and it hurts. And to just be able to be authentic, to be brave enough to admit to yourself that you're wrong. For me, that for me is one of the most courageous things that a person can do, is admit when you are wrong, when you've made a mistake.
And apologize.
Apologize. Apologies don't make you weak.
No,
I think apologies make you stronger.
Quite the opposite.
You've learned from life, and you're willing to grow. And allowing yourself to grow, I think, is a very courageous thing to do.
Excellent. I love that. That's a new perspective. I always think that. I always say that you cannot be courageous unless you are afraid. You have to feel fear in order to be courageous. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure.
No, I challenge it. I love it.
I think that sometimes you don't know that you should be afraid.
That's true.
Sometimes you don't.
But is it courage then?
I think it is, because it's being honest. It's about being authentic.
Okay.
And I think that there are lots of people who are who they are because they think it's important to themselves. They don't know that they are upsetting other people, and that this could put them in harm's way. And I think that for them, that they still live their lives, I think, with courage. I think that if you're, sometimes if you're afraid and you do something anyways, I think, and I can say this myself, I've been afraid in circumstances, and what I've done was pull back.
Yeah.
Because I've tried to move things forward and tried to be honest, but I've pulled back because of the potential consequences that I felt either for me or for my job or for my family, and so you're you're more hesitant. Sometimes if you're not afraid, you can be a lot more bold in what you do and what you say, and I think that's a good thing.
Excellent. It's really great. You said also that you have been lucky, and that's how you end up where we are now. How can we become more lucky? Do you have a recipe for us how to get lucky?
You know what? One of the things about luck is that you've got to recognize it when it happens to you, and then not be afraid to take advantage of it.
Okay.
You know, sometimes opportunities present themselves to you just because you're the right person in the right place at the right time. And it takes a conscious choice on your part to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities when they present themselves.
So you have to keep your eyes open.
You have to keep your eyes open, and recognize that it's it could be a rare opportunity that presents itself for you, and that you need to jump on it. And don't be afraid to fail. Like I said, people fall on their faces all the time, and you have to, this might sound cliche, but you've got to just pick yourself up and try again.
I mean, when I think back on my life, the periods in my life that I have learned the most, it has not been when I have been successful. It's been when I've fallen on my face, when I really, and that's where all the learning has come. And that's also when I think back today, maybe are the defining moments in my lives.
Were you afraid when those moments happened?
Oh yeah, sometimes were really afraid. Yeah, definitely.
So what was the big transformational part for you that made you want to be more authentic about yourself? What was the big risk that you took?
Well, there are several defining moments, but one particular story was when I had been very successful in business and got promoted and positions, and I thought I was God gifts to the employees, and you can imagine that's a very good attitude. And
that goes over well with everybody.
With everybody.
Everybody loves a boss like that.
And then I got a job, and I had few people in my organization, but then I got a big job with lots of people, and I still had the same attitude. But that didn't go very well with them. So I actually, my people, they didn't support me at all. They went against me. And that was really tough, but somehow with the process, it's too long to describe now, but we managed to turn it around, and I got real feedback from all of them what they thought were my strengths and weaknesses, and especially weaknesses. Not many strengths, a lot of weaknesses.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I've gotten those too. You learn. I mean, like, again, it's sometimes when you're in positions of authority, when you're a manager, when you've got colleagues that count on you to be a leader, it's important to keep learning through that process.
Yes.
And just because you've got the position doesn't mean you know everything. Like, when I came here, I made lots of mistakes when I first arrived as an ambassador. You can't pretend that you know everything, because you don't.
You don't, and it's not possible to change the world alone. You need people to join you on that ride.
Absolutely, you can be the smartest person in the world if nobody's willing to engage with you and to be with you on these as you're pursuing your agenda or some plan. It won't happen. It won't happen. It'll just stay in your head, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. But we're close to the end now. Do you have anything you would like to advise, or anything you would like to say to the viewers?
Well, I just thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us here on this drive, and thanks to you. I think that again, be yourselves. I mean, for me, it was really important to be my authentic self, to come out as a gay man, to talk about my background as an immigrant, to talk about my background as a Jewish person. And it's not always easy, and it's sometimes when you're in a position of privilege like I am, it's really easy to do that. But I encourage you to do the same thing, because you'll be surprised how many people come out and support you and appreciate everything that you are and everything that you stand for. So be your own courageous self.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. This has been great.
Yeah, excellent. And I think we all have a closet that we should come out of somehow. What it is.
More than one.
More than one. That's
More
true.
than one.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. That's a really great closing remark. And thank you very much, Artur, for having having the time to join me. And it's been a pleasure. And I think it's really good for the relationship between Norway and Canada that you are here as a spokesperson for Canada.
Tusen takk.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.